Okay, so if we look at this image was taken with a wide angle lens. It was taken with it was a 24 millimeter lens, not terribly wide angle, but wide angle enough to give us some distortion. So if we look at this church is distorted. If we look at the walls, we see that the wall on the left is leaning in, and the wall on the right is leaning in. We look at the tower, and it's not straight. So we have a number of issues with this. So that's where we come into the geometry or transform. And I like the interface much better in ACR than in Lightroom. I find it hard to see in Lightroom. Again, here's the Lightroom version of this. You have these buttons at the top, and in Photoshop, you have these icons here, which are a little more readable for me. And if we hit A is automatic. Basically, Adobe's going to try and do this automatically, fix this automatically. So if
that's supposed to be here.
If we hit A, let's see what happens. There we go. So much better. Look at the difference. The lines are straight, everything's straight. However, look at the very top of the church. We have some space above the spire, but when we hit A, we lose the very top. Very often when we change the geometry of an image, we're going to lose something. So you always want to do this before you do any cropping. Basically, optics is first, geometry is next. However, there's other options. So if we hit this guy only adjusts horizontals. So if we do that, you see the subtle change? It's basically looking at horizontals, such as the stairs in the bottom of the church, and it's making it horizontal. So I took it a little bit crooked, but not too much. I actually did a pretty good job on this, if I don't say so myself. If we do the vertical guy right here, we're going to adjust verticals only. And you see what happened on the left and right. It adjusted the verticals so the verticals were vertical, but in doing so, we lost some data on the right and left. And let's go back. And if we hit this guy is at verticals and horizontals. And that did a really nice job, but look how much we lost at the top. Which brings us to our last option, which is manual or guided, it's called. And if we choose this, our cursor becomes a little plus sign, and we have to put a minimum of 2 guides on this image. The guides are basically determining what's horizontal, what's vertical. So if we want this guy to be vertical, I can click and drag, and you can see how I can make this guide. I'm going to put it right along the edge of that because I want that to be vertical. And maybe I want this guy to be vertical as well. As soon as I do 2, see it straighten them out. And if I want to do a horizontal, I could put another one here. That should be horizontal. You see there was another adjustment there. Okay, it's probably similar to doing the everything, but I find guided works a lot better than any of the automatic modes. And I get to control it because if I want to allow a little bit of leaning, I can do it. If I want to lean outward, I could do it. You can do anything you want, but it gives you a little more control over what you're doing. So I find guided to be much, much better. If I hit this, I clear the guides. Now we can do the same thing in Lightroom. Let's see. Go to my library, and we go to geometry. There it is right there. Develop. transform, and we hit guided, which is right here. It basically lets me do this. That's interesting. We can do that, and there we go. And maybe I do this. So it's very, very similar. If we just have it tell it to do full or vertical, we get the same results as we're going to get in Photoshop ACR because it's using the same tools, and there's none. Okay. There's a little box down here that says constrained crop. And basically, if we check that, let's do vertical. And it's basically going to crop the image to get rid of that white space. There you go. And if I undo it, it's still cropped. We have to go to the crop tool to actually undo that. But we can see that this is certainly a lot better than the way we started off. Go back and
This is Leah. I have a question.
yeah.
This isn't a big point. I'm just wondering if my eyes are playing tricks on me. It looks like the tower was built slightly not square to the rest of the building, or that it is wearing a jauntily canted cap.
Well, you know, let's. I didn't do optics on this, so let's do that. I don't know. Hard to say. No, I
It's
mean,
got to be the degree to which it's different. It's got to be the building, not the image.
let's take a look at a different image.